Okay, so I have a few weird stories about the Native American reservation back home that I would really like to share. The area that my stories take place is known as the Bottoms or the Water Babies. A little bit of background before I get into it all. The Snake River that runs all through Idaho, and some of it goes through the reservation. One particular part of it is where these stories will take place. The story that I got told in high school was that back in the day, when the Native Americans would have two kids, they would take them down to the river and hold them underneath the water, and whichever one did not die got to go home. I have no idea if this is true or not. I haven't done any research on it at all, but that's the story. Kids would tell me that you see and hear strange things out there because of this. Basically, generally creepy stuff. My first time out at the place, I was hanging out with some friends driving around, and they suggested that we should go and check it out. I had never been there before, and I've always been interested in the paranormal stuff, so I agree. We drive out to the spot. I pull off to the left side of the road so that we're in about the center of the horseshoe shape in the picture I put on screen right now. Where we are sitting, we're about 100 or so feet away from the water. We sit in the car watching the water for a few minutes, waiting for something spooky to happen. My friend next to me in the back seat asks us if any of us just saw that. Huh? Saw what? He says he thought he saw someone walk from the field on one side of the road towards the water, a little bit just in front of us. I'm thinking, whatever, man. He's either just seeing things or he's trying way too hard to scare us. I keep on watching the water. I start seeing white lights rise up from the water and then just float on the top. At first it was just one of them, but then it was two, and then it was three of them. One of them would go down and another would pop up somewhere else. It seemed like they were watching us. Out of nowhere, my friend riding shotgun starts yelling at my friend to start the car and leave. I start looking around for headlights, thinking that another car is coming by. The last thing I want is to get stopped by a reservation cop for parking on a road with the lights off and end up in the reservation jail as a small white kid. I don't see any car lights coming from anywhere. I look over my left shoulder towards the water and I finally see what my friend is yelling about. There was a huge black mass moving up the hill towards the car. It was a clear night. A ton of stars were out, but I could not see anything behind this cloud, behind this mass. It looks like it's about 20 feet wide and 10 feet tall, and it is moving fast towards us. My buddy driving finally starts the car, and in a hurry, shifts down and stomps on the gas, and we do not go anywhere. I look at the shifter and realize that we are not moving because we were in neutral. Fantastic. I look back at the black cloud, and it's just about on top of us. My friend riding shotgun suddenly shifts into first gear. We peel out for a second, throwing gravel into the scary Native American demon cloud spirit's face, and we make our getaway after we finally calm down. And when we are calmed down, we just start to laugh about it. We all go to friend's house to play some video games. After the first time out there, I would go back about once every few weeks or so when I would get bored. Never by myself though. It was scary, but it was fun at the same time. Sometimes, when we would go outside, nothing would happen. We would not see or hear anything. This is the next time that I remember that really stands out in my mind. So, I headed back out to the Bottoms with some friends. We had 2 carloads of people. There was around 10 of us in total. By this time, we would get out of the car to get a better look at the water. I guess we had gotten a little bit more brave. We never got too far away from the road though. I also noticed that when we got out of the car, we could hear weird stuff. I would sometimes hear something crying out in the bushes, and I would also hear what sounded like someone throwing large rocks into the water. All of us are just standing around watching the lights in the water when someone yells out, "Car." I turn around and sure enough, there are headlights and red and blue light coming for us. We all book it into the cars. Most of us all pile into one car. We start to take off, and the cop is right behind our friend's car that is behind us. He stops the car, I'm guessing because we were already fucked, and he did not want to get into a chase with the cops. We are sitting there, waiting in the car for the cop to come and talk to us, and probably get a citation for something. He's talking to the kids in the other car for a few minutes, and he finally starts coming towards the car that I'm in. While he's walking the 20 or so feet between us, the whole time he is keeping his mag light oriented down towards the water, which I thought was really odd. He talks to us and basically say he could give us a citation, but that he is not going to. He's actually being kind of chill. He asks what we were doing out here, and I tell him that we were dumb high school kids just trying to get scared. He's about to let us go when my friend asks if any of the stuff we've heard about this place is actually true. I forgot to mention that he is a reservation cop, but he just kind of looks at us for a second and just says, "There is some weird stuff out here." We fuck off and stay away for quite a while. The last time I actually went out to the place was just before I signed up and was going to basic training a few weeks later. Since I was leaving soon, I was doing as much partying as possible. A few times I would end up losing everything that I had in my pockets, so to prevent myself from losing my car keys, I put a carabiner on them and I would clip the carabiner to my pocket. That will come up again later. I was drinking with my friend Brandon, Tom, and some guy that Tom knows named Steve. He was a super strange metalhead. I suggest again that we go out to the bottoms. Everyone is down. We grab some beers and jump in Tom's car. Brandon lives out on the reservation and knows the area just a little bit better than we do. He is not Native American, but his parents have property out there. He says that we should check out a different spot down the road from the horseshoe spot that's right next to the water. I say screw it, we may as well. We go to the new spot and get out of the car and immediately start seeing the white balls of light. They almost look like alligator eyes when they get hit with a floodlight. There are tons of them all over the place. They all seem to be looking at us. There were some very strange vibes this night. It felt very weird being this close to the water. Metalhead Steve says, "Screw this, I'm going in the water." He makes it 2 steps into the river, and something about 50 feet away from us splashes through the water up onto the bank and starts hauling ass through the bushes towards us. We freak out, run to the car, and drive back to Tom's house. We get back, and everyone just decides to call it a night. I go to my car, reach for my keys, feel my carabiner, but there are no keys there. I never had any issues with my keys once I started using the D-ring. Fuck my life. Some ghost kid stole my car keys. Since losing all of my shit started happening quite a while before this, I thankfully had a spare key in a magnet box underneath the driver door. I drive back out to where we were at by myself. I pull up to the spot, and I can see my keys shining in my headlights. I make it a point not to look at the water. If I see anything, then I might not have the balls anymore to go and get my keys. I pull up to them. I unlock the car, jump outside, grab them, jump back into my car, lock the doors, and then just quickly leave. I make it about 20 minutes down the road, and I look for my phone to see what time it is. Son of a bitch. My phone was on my lap when I jumped out to get my keys. I drive back out there, same plan of action. This time, I have to look around for a second before I see it. I get my phone, go home, lay in bed. I am done with ghosts for a while. That's about all I've got for that. I went on a weekend vacation with some friends to go and do some touristy stuff. These are the following things that happened over 3 days. I can elaborate on them further if there is interest. These are the events that happened at the cottage that we rented. The upstairs looked like a children's infirmary from the 1930s. I heard children laughing upstairs during the night. The university kids next door end up and leaving while screaming and crying in the middle of the night. This older couple were apparently checking out, despite their vehicle and belongings still being there. After they left, we found a wire noose in the woods. We found a huge, Bigfoot-sized handprint on the inside door window. We also got chased by something through a field. The couple who rented the cottage out to us tried to sabotage our friend's car. Cool. I'll start from getting chased through a field. The cottage has a full bathroom that was pretty nice because there were 4 of us. However, unfortunately, there are 2 girls and they much prefer to bath instead of shower. Unfortunately, I have to shit and they're ignoring any pleas for, please let me take a shit. There was a field in from off the cottage, like not a totally flat field. It was a bit of a slope and had some tall bushes and trees at one corner. I have a fear of getting pulled into the bushes while I'm pooping and getting, something. So, tree it is. I find a nice white birch tree that had been felled and I use it to sit on while taking a shit. It's, July of 2014, so it is the summer and near the ocean is pretty cool. I'm trying to ignore the sounds of my stomach just screaming. Suddenly I hear it. Step, step, step. I perk up and freeze. I hear step, step, step once again. I hear it coming from behind me, so I pull up my shorts and start looking around, but I cannot see anything. It's very much daytime as well, so surely I should see someone if they were walking around. I am scanning every single inch of my surroundings for any movement at all. When I finally turn my back to the woods again, I hear step, step, step. I start to walk up toward the cottage again, which would be the equivalent to a 5-minute walk. I walk away from the woods with my back to the field, and the weird noise stops. I start walking up the slope thing back to the cottage, and then I hear something break into a sprint. I swing around, just in time to catch it diving into a bush. All I could see was mostly a blur, but I knew that it had some kind of gray fur. I stare at the bush, and I am walking backwards up the slope very slowly. Suddenly, fight or flight kicks in really heavily, and before I even know what's going on, my legs are already carrying me away. Unbeknownst to me, there are thorn bushes which I fall into, and I cut the hell out of my legs and arms. As I'm trying to get out of the shitty thorn bushes, I hear it panting as it is coming towards me. I swing around, and I see this weird thing that looks like a gray bear with a black stripe going down its back, but the head is way too big for it to be a black bear. Now, you're going to make fun of me for this next part, which is completely understandable, because in my panic, I'm kind of on autopilot, and I literally yell out the first thing that comes to my head out loud. You know, when people scream fuck or damn or whatever out loud in response to something. Well, for me, for some reason, I ended up screaming out zoinks like I'm in fucking Scooby-Doo. I have no idea why I did that. I've never done it again. I am sprinting as fast as I can. This thing is gaining on me really quickly. I burst through the bushes covered in blood from the thorns, and I trip onto the lawn right in front of the cottage. I think, this is it. I am dead. I close my eyes, preparing for death. But nothing happens, so I open my eyes back up. I see it staring at me from the edge of the bush line. I stand up and back away slowly and go into the cottage and just have a panic attack. It was not a super climactic ending, but that happened. If only they just let me shit in the bathroom, none of it would have happened. So, I'll tell you about the car being sabotaged. So, the last night that we were there was when a bunch of really weird things happened. I will get into that later. We were going to leave on Sunday morning. It was 7 a.m. We were packing our stuff because we are overtired. We have not slept and we just want to go home. I look outside to see one of the people who owns the campground hovering around the car. I watch him for just a minute to see what he is doing. He goes underneath the car for a minute and gets up and looks around and then runs back up through the woods. We start the car and everything appears normal. I drive over to check out the place. I can hear that there is something dragging on the underside of the car. I check it out and shit and drive away really slowly. The people stare at us while we leave. We stop in front because the dragging sound is really bad. There is something hanging down touching the gravel. I glare at the guy like, you asshole. I manage to take some haywire and kind of tie it to something on the underside of the car. While driving, I notice that the brakes are being really weird. They're kind of working, but also kind of not. The brake line has a small slit in it, like someone tried to cut it. I don't know what the hell was wrong with those people. We tried to find out what their names were, but they had sold the campground and got the hell out of there. So, the children spooks. We see the cottage and go on with our stuff. We go upstairs, where there is apparently beds for up to 4 people. We go up there, and there is like those weird metal bed frames that you would see in like horror movies based in the World War I to 1930s era. There is like the creepy stuffed animals everywhere. I see all of that and I say, nah, I am not sleeping up here. Everyone else agrees, so we take the mattresses off of the frames with the sheets still on them and bring them downstairs to the small living room and set them up. That night, we are watching a movie around 11:30. We hear a faint laugh coming from upstairs, like a hee 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 hee. Michael Jackson? And then we hear a small thud. We're all like, this is really messed up. What kind of place is this? We hear it again. We do rock, paper, scissors to see who goes up there to die. I lose, of course. So I go up and I open up the door. All the stuffed animals are up against the door. I notice that all of the dresser drawers are open with random clothes strewn about the upstairs. I close the door and go back downstairs. We never go back up there the entire time that we are there. Okay, I want people to post some weird childhood experiences and stories that you still cannot explain. Okay, I will start with mine. I remember being able to see through closed eyelids as a young kid, around 5 to 8 years old, particularly during scary scenes in movies. I would cover my eyes with my hands or a blanket, but still vividly see what was on screen, even though I had never seen the film before. Pick related as one scene I remember distinctly viewing through my mind's eye. Able to see through closed eyelids. This happened to me when I was pretty young too. I tried to explain it to my mom, and she was like, "You're just seeing after images." I would look out the window, close my eyes, and it was like they were still open. I could still see everything. That shit stopped once I got a few years older though. This one happened to my sister and I around the ages of 4 and 5 years old. Maybe a little bit later actually. We were staying at my grandparents' house for the day. Both of us were walking around in the backyard while our grandparents were inside. We both see a pair of gardening gloves moving around on a garden seat. They were almost jumping around, as if someone had their hands in them and was playing with them like puppets. Both of us ran inside and tried to explain this to our grandma the best that we possibly could, but of course, she just brushed it off as childhood nonsense. To this day, my sister and I both recall the exact same scenario and can remember exactly where it was, all the exact same details. Okay, I'll continue the thread with mine. When I was little, my parents had this long rectangular closet that was lit up by a small bulb in the center of the ceiling. Natural light never reached the inside of this closet. The closet always terrified me. I never went inside if I did not have to. For whatever reason, I decided I would walk into the closet without turning the light on. I walked into the closet, and I can't remember what happened next, but I was suddenly in complete darkness. I was confronted by a pair of those tragedy and comedy masks in front of a swirling purple or black void with some green sparkles like glitter occasionally appearing and popping like bubbles in the vortex. The next thing I remember was seeing my own body, kind of like from a 3/4 view from behind. I wasn't like a ghost, though I could still see my body attached to my head. I can't remember exactly what happened next, but I remember I tried to scream or call for help. I don't know if I was successful. I don't remember ever leaving the closet. None of my family remembers anything like that either. Here is one that's also completely unrelated, but still unexplainable. I was around 6 or 7 years old. I was in my room alone, sitting on the floor, playing with my plastic army men. My parents call me over to come and do something. I leave the room for a few hours. I come back, and my plastic army men are no longer on the floor where I last left them. Nobody else has been in my room. I'm an only child. They have all somehow been placed in my 10-gallon fish tank. The lid is still on the fish tank too. To this day, I cannot come up with any possible explanation. I have a childhood one too. This is a weird one that still bothers me to this day. My family bought a townhouse in the early 2000s, late 1990s. I always saw shadow people in the house. The energy in the basement was very bad, and the laundry/boiler room was awful. I hated going downstairs, but it was the only place to escape from my crazy abusive family situation. I slept in a bedroom with my sister, bunk beds. One night, I went to bed like normal. I woke up really early in the morning. It must have been between 2 and 5 a.m. When I woke up, I am on the floor of my basement in my pajamas in a cross pose like Jesus on the crucifix. I got up, terrified, put on the light, and then I ran onto my bed and tried to sleep. I never thought about that again until almost a decade later, when family dinner in the townhouse comes up. I tell my story, laughing it off like, that was weird, right? My older sister just looks at me and says, "Oh my God, the same thing happened to me, I swear." I could tell that she was not lying or trying to play a joke. It definitely made me feel a little bit uneasy. Story number 2. I moved after about 4 years into another home about 35 minutes away. That day, I'm with my dad walking to the storage unit where a bunch of boxes full of random stuff are just stacked up on top of each other. As he's putting down a box onto the floor, one from the top of the stack furiously starts making noise, like it was clearly a Furby toy inside or something that used to be popular back in the day. Then my dad picks it up to try and turn it off, but he says that there are no batteries inside. What the hell is going on? We quietly just stand there watching this Furby going off with no batteries for another 10 seconds, and then it stops. A very strange feeling fills the room, and I don't know why, but I looked up at him and I said, "I think your dad died." Why I did or said this, or why this thought even crossed my mind, I have no idea. He wasn't mad at me like you would expect, but it was almost like he was agreeing with me, like he also just knew. He called his family to check, and they confirmed that he had just passed away. Okay, so when this happened to me, I was sitting in a local bar on the outskirts of a small town in Upstate NY. It's a weeknight, Monday, maybe Tuesday, so the bar is dead, and I am sitting there bored as shit, trying to catch a buzz. I'm the only patron in the place, and the only other person there is the bartender. I remember that she was a cute little college girl named Mandy, maybe 19 years old. I think I was probably 22 years old at the time. I was chatting the chick up pretty hard, trying to get myself a piece. I remember it was probably around midnight in the fall. It was a very still, dark night. Suddenly, this wind and rain hits out of nowhere like a damn Mack truck. In out of the storm walks this guy who's probably around average height, maybe a little bit under 6 feet, and he's an extremely thin man who is so white he looks like new fallen snow. The bar has probably 20 seats, and this guy sits right next to me. He turns to look at me, and Jesus Christ, his eyes. His eyes are entirely jet black. There is no white or color whatsoever. I am instantly hit with this terrible feeling of absolute bottomless dread. I mean, like a fucking black hole just filled up my entire existence. The guy orders a beer, but he does not drink it. He doesn't even take a sip. He just has it in his hand, almost like a prop. He then starts asking me the weirdest questions, and he has this very deep gravelly voice. He was asking me questions like, "Was your grandmother a strong woman?" and "Do you like the sound of children playing on a spring day?" This dude is making me seriously uncomfortable, and those eyes too. He asked me to tell him what I hate about people. I feel myself actually getting physically angry with his questions, and I actually feel a rage building inside of me. I'm normally a very chill person, and it takes a whole heck of a lot to get me mad, but this guy made me want to punch him. I somehow get the impression that this is actually what he wants, like he feeds off of anger and violence and negative energy. Instead, I just smile and tell him that I love everyone, and that includes him. I actually see what I think was disgust come over his face. He stares at the bartender, like he could leap over and attack her at any moment. Finally, he says goodbye without ever touching his beer. He gets up and leaves back into the storm. I go to the door and I look down the road. There is only one way to go, as the bar was on a dead-end street, and you can see a good 3 miles in that direction, and I would have seen headlights in the storm, and I did not see any, which means he must have walked. I then get the terrible feeling that he did not actually leave, but that he was still out there, hiding, watching the bar. The bartender starts to freak out now, and she starts screaming and crying, screaming things like, "It's hopeless," and "We are all going to die alone." This was from a girl who literally always had an ear-to-ear smile. I am freaking out kind of hardcore now and trying to calm her down, and the wind and the rain now sounds like it could break the glass of the windows at any moment. The bartender Mandy pukes some hardcore projectile vomit all over the bar, and I swear to you, the minute that she did, the storm just stopped. The rain, the wind, the thunder, it just stopped like it was turned off. Mandy kind of shakes her head like she was in a daze and is back to her normal self. She is terribly embarrassed and started cleaning the puke, apologizing profusely. I keep reassuring her it's not a problem. Everyone gets sick sometimes. I felt so horrible and shitty after that. I just wanted to go home by myself and crash. I never saw her again after that night. She quit working there, and who knows what happened to her. This was 10 years ago now, but I still remember it very vividly. I still have no clue what took place that night. My family owns a house in the middle of nowhere in Croatia. We used to go on a summer vacation there every single year, since the house is only 5 minutes away from the sea and is much cheaper than staying at a hotel. I'm like 90% sure that the place has something paranormal going on with it. This happened to me when I was 12 years old. I was on vacation in that said house. It's the middle of the night and I am just trying to fall asleep. I am failing because it's like 30 degrees Celsius outside and I am being boiled alive. I suddenly lose my ability to move. My whole body is completely paralyzed. I had not gone to sleep yet. My eyes were not even closed. I just suddenly become paralyzed. My bedroom door very slowly opens. The shadowy figure steps inside. He looks pretty much like the Hat Man, but without a hat and with green eyes. It stands over the foot of my bed for what feels like an eternity. It slowly leans in. It puts a finger right up to its mouth and just lets out a quiet shh. It promptly turns around and then leaves the room. I spend the rest of that night staring at the door and trying not to shit myself before falling asleep out of exhaustion. Now, I would have written off the whole event as just sleep paralysis, were it not for the fact that the shadow guy opened up my door. He left the door open when he left, and it stayed open all night long. I also never had sleep paralysis before or after that incident. Okay, so this is actually a story from my mom. This happened to her in the late 1970s, maybe early 1980s. My mom was working as a governess on a large sheep station in Australia, in far southwest Queensland. She becomes friends with a young couple on the station next door. It's hours or so drive from the property that she lives on. She's out one night, checking fox and rabbit traps. The friends used to sell hides as extra income, as Australian summers can be pretty harsh, and livestock are not always viable in the drought for income. She's in an old slapped-out Holden ute. She pulls up to a rabbit warren that borders a big grove of trees. My friend's husband says, "Wait at the car, I will go and check the traps." They get out and light a cigarette. They hear a earth-shattering noise outside. The husband runs out of the darkness as white as a sheet. He just screams, "Get in the damn car." All of them jump in the car. He slams it in reverse and just drives backwards for around 500 meters. Then he hits a stump in the paddock. He snaps right back to his senses, puts the car in gear, and then speeds off. The whole time, my mom and her friend are screaming what the hell was that. The husband doesn't know. He said he got to the traps and there was blood and fur everywhere. The traps were pulled out of the ground and thrown around. He was bending down to pick up the traps and he heard heavy footsteps running through the trees and then heard a roar, so he just ran. There is rumors of escaped wildcats from zoos and American air bases in Australia, but to this day, they swear that the roar was nothing like a large cat's roar. It sounded like something they had never heard before.